Behind me is New York City's financial district. It's mind-boggling to think about the challenges facing today's capital markets. Increased data volumes, growing product complexity, sub-second decision-making on trades as well as risk. Firms have to manage this, respond with agility, and do it all cost-effectively. Technology will be key, and Microsoft is helping lead the way here. We talked to several of its partners and customers about the journeys they've been on. Let's start by listening to some of the challenges they're facing.
What we've seen over the last year is a bit of a perfect storm. And we've seen an increasing complexity in the financial products themselves, a higher volume of those products, and an increased requirement on the timeliness of the delivery of the results, particularly the risk results.
Now, with the greater amounts of data that financial services firms have to process and the data arriving at much higher rates, everybody realized that a single machine can no longer handle the computational problems that financial services firms are facing every day.
Everybody has to keep costs low. So you're looking at reducing the footprint of what you're doing. I mean, that's where the cost comes from. At the same time, you have to design your system in a way that's going to scale out. And if it's mission critical, like some of the exchange matching engines that we support and some of these FX trading systems, it has to be ultra reliable.
In the face of all of these challenges, financial institutions need technology that can scale, perform, enable a competitive advantage, and do it all while lowering costs. Microsoft's partners talk to us about everything from communication server to Windows Presentation Foundation to .NET to SQL Server to the Windows operating system to HPC Server for clustering, and, well, why don't we just let Microsoft's partners tell it?
So one of the other trends in the industry has been, with all the data that's happening now, and our traders and portfolio managers, is data coming from everywhere. So how do we make it more visually rich for them? How do we make it easier for them to use that data? So visualization tools are very important, and ultimately leads into creating a user experience that'll be very satisfying for the end user. So we are using Microsoft's Windows Presentation Foundation, or WPF technologies, in our new version of Longview.
Our product is fully .NET. It works with the framework .NET 3.0. We use the WCF components within our application. We use that for a lot of our security and communications throughout the application server.
We're working with Microsoft and their technology adopter program, so for things like Visual Studio 2010 and the .NET 4 Common Language Runtime, and products like their event tracing for Windows, because these allow us to really target latency very, very, very accurately.
So the first part of the strategy really is setting an enterprise-level architecture that really looks at not just optimizing all the different layers, but how they can be better connected. And of course, working with an alliance partner like Microsoft that deals with multiple layers in the stack, at the desktop, in the cloud, backbone, communications, collaboration, what have you, that's a very important element or foundational element of a technology strategy in today's environment.
With the refinement in the stack and the refinement of receive-side scaling and the ability to distribute interrupts, network interrupts across multiple CPU cores, we think that puts us in a great position to handle the needs of the market and the user community.
Now, some of these technologies may be household names among IT professionals, but you might be surprised at some of the very tangible benefits they deliver and how well tuned they are to the financial services sector.
We have a pretty high-profile customer who, in using another vendor in somewhat of a proprietary solution, we were able to cut their data center costs by 75% with a reduction of both physical hardware, which means power costs were reduced, operating systems costs were reduced, and overall management was reduced because of the efficiencies and scalability we can get with those solutions.
As time has gone by, we've come back in and backfilled and retrofitted. And for example, with SQL Server 2008 and Visual Studio 2008, we've been able to move forward to those. And more recently with Windows Server HPC, it's really provided a cost-effective, basically a cost-effective deployment tool for the operating system platform itself.
So we had to find a good way of taking what was potentially becoming an end-of-life product into a new invigorated new product, the OpEx Plus product. So we worked with Microsoft to see how could we take the existing Microsoft technology in the OpEx product and move it to the new OpEx Plus technology with the C#, with the .NET, with improvements in SQL, etc.
Not only have Microsoft's partners seen the advantages of these scalable solutions, its customers have as well. Some of them are building completely new platforms from the ground up using key Microsoft technologies like its Grid solution and .NET, while eagerly anticipating technologies like Microsoft Cloud and complex event processing.
We actually have built an entirely front-to-back platform for managing the alternative investments business at Credit Suisse. So it includes the front office, middle office, and back office functionality, including portfolio management, risk analytics, and all of the back office side. It's built on Microsoft technology, database SQL 2008 and 2005, then .NET as the application tier, and SharePoint, WPF, ASP.NET, all kinds of front end for different user bases.
I think the main benefit of working with the Microsoft platform is the integration between all the various parts of the platform. So for instance, you have very strong support for the .NET platform within SQL Server. Within SQL Server, you have an entire stack of analytics and reporting services and notification services.
So we created a single place for all of our transactions, positions, risk, analytics data. So the biggest advantage to that, when front office sees it, risk sees the data, versus client sees, they see the same exact return, they see the same exact data all across the board. That's the biggest benefit. We reduced the time for client report from 15 days to 1 click. So it's very, very significant accomplishment.
Microsoft has come out recently with a complex event processing platform called Orinoco. And because it's bundled with the SQL Server platform, it's going to be a fairly easy and low-cost entry for anybody in capital markets who wants to explore complex event processing.
You're talking about thousands of portfolios and daily volume of tens of thousands of positions going into the central repository of the data, this platform, and then doing analytics on top of that. Our current data warehouse, which runs on SQL 2008, is about 1.8 terabytes, and it's growing to be 2.5 within the end of the year.
Microsoft has recently been coming out with infrastructure that's fairly important to us. So one of the important things that they've come out with is grid computing facilities in their Microsoft HPC servers. So what that lets us do is that lets us take complex calculations, and by putting it on a grid, it lets us cut down the time of calculations from hours to possibly minutes.
We are very, very well positioned in terms of the platform for enabling business and the growth of the business. We are launching a number of new businesses on the platform in literally half or 1/3 of the time. Otherwise, it would take to build system from scratch. In terms of the growth, we are looking at exposing portions of the platform to our partners and client via the cloud. So we are working very closely with Microsoft and others in terms of providing that. We are looking into very innovative next generation interactions, meaning Surface and mobile type of technology in terms of exposing the platform, almost like changing the lifestyle.